The Xbox conference opened with a big announcement, the Xbox One Slim, or the Xbox One S, as they're calling it, 40% smaller, which is good. It's down to a price drop of pretty much $300. It's quite good that they opened with the Xbox One Slim. Very strong opening, saying, look at our new console, it's smaller, it's sleeker, some people were saying it looked like the PS4, I couldn't tell. And then they went on to talk about Gears of War, and this is where one of the things that was a tone, which something they wanted to push through the entire conference, and that was crossplay. During this, they announced the Xbox Play Anywhere program, which is when you buy a game for the Xbox One, you can play it on Windows 10. I'm always amazed that they always make that definition of Windows 10. It's like, I'm still on Windows 8. Does that mean that I'm excluded from this? Although, apparently, it's you buy the game, if you buy the game's physical disc, then that's one-on-one. If you buy the game on the Xbox, you get the game play on the Xbox, then on PC, you play it on the PC. But if you get it digitally on PC, you can go either way. This is where I think, where my sort of negative thoughts around this comes in. The thought that kept going through my mind was, if this crossplay thing is so good and it's all digital, what would be the point of getting the Xbox? I posed this question to a couple of people, and Space Hamster Jeff pointed out that you don't have to buy the console, you just buy the games, obviously. And this is where the interesting thought comes in, because this then immediately put my mind onto the Windows Unified Platform, that thing that they were trying to push earlier in the year, where you have this interconnected connectivity for all Windows products, being Surface tablets, phones, Xbox, and Windows 10 mainly. That entire ecosystem it's a closed ecosystem, because people like Steam and Good Old Games and things like that have trouble going in that system because Windows goes, no, fuck off, and then tells them to bugger off. Everything has to be done through the Windows Store, and so it's not competitive. It's just Windows has a monopoly within that ecosystem. And I think this is the reason why as soon as I started thinking that, I started looking towards this crossplay thing less having an issue of it being, well, what would be the point of buying the Xbox? It's like, well, they own half of these game companies anyway. Usually when the game is exclusive, Microsoft usually owns the company behind it, so you're buying something from them anyway. But then I started thinking, this Windows, it's pushing their Windows Unified Platform, which is generally bad for consumers. So I am sort of sold on the crossplay thing, the Xbox Play Anywhere. But the Xbox Play Anywhere is part of this Windows Unified Platform, which I'm against. It's Microsoft closing off their ecosystem, which means that outside people like Steam and Good Old Games, the competition essentially is gone. It's not good for the consumer. The whole interconnectivity between playing Windows and Xbox I'm not necessarily sold on it. It's good that you can go from Xbox and play on the PC, and all of your progress is saved, all of your achievements is saved, even up to the point where they got about Minecraft and mobile, which was always quite impressive. So the whole crossplay thing is much more of the corporate aspect rather than gaming aspect. This is part of the reason why I mentioned the whole thing with Space Hamster earlier, was because having him point out is like, yeah, just buy the games is sort of the point. It's the bit that I have against it, and the bit that I would tell you to tell people to err on the side of caution is on the much more corporate aspect of this crossplay thing, rather than the actual games. The game themselves are still going to be fine and they're still going to be fun, but there is this corporate aspect, this Microsoft aspect, which may not be in your favour. And then going back to Gears of War, they showed off the Gears of War. They showed it on. They had this sort of gameplay on stage. I couldn't help but think that it was almost very tutorial-ish. So it was almost like a tutorial level, because they did everything at least once, and they picked up a new gun and fired it off. It was basically like a blade gun, firing gun thing, like it was in Dead Space and Ratchet and Clank and all sorts of stuff like Yeah, it was very tutorial level-ish. I just looked at it and was like, this could be live, mainly because it is impossible for the guy playing to die. It's almost impossible for them to die. He barely got any hit markers on him, barely got wounded. Everyone's going down in like one shot. It was almost like he was playing the tutorial level or playing on some like super easy mode. Then with that comes a special edition Xbox Elite wireless controller with Gears of War stuff on it. And also connected to that, the Killer Instinct guys came out and said, we are continuing adding characters. This time, this character is General Ram from the Gears of War franchise because we want to sell Gears of War, and we're owned by Microsoft, so yay! Then they went on to Forza Horizons 3, which for one, looks freaking sweet. The Forza games have always been very well made, very well done, so I very doubt that it's going to disappoint anyone. The Forza games are always very good. It comes out September 27th this year, so that's going to be one for the racing people, the Xbox racing people to come along. That's one of the exclusives. Then they showed off a gameplay trailer of Recall. Which was a gameplay trailer, it was literally just a cut together trailer thing. So, yeah, I very much like Recall. Recall looks like a lot of fun. It's almost Jak and Daxter-y sort of thing. It's very much like a platformer, shooting, that sort of thing. It looks very fun. I very much like Recall. Yeah, they still haven't really said that much about it, because last year they just had an announcement CG trailer, and this time was a gameplay trailer, and then that's it. I'm very interested in this Recall thing, but they have been so quiet about it that at this, just by judging from the conferences, they have said almost nothing about it. It's just a trailer and another trailer that includes what could be looked at as gameplay, but it's also got CG stuff in it as well. So then they had Final Fantasy 15, where it finally comes out on September 30th. It's been on like several E3s by now, so it's about bloody time the friggin' thing came out. And they made the whole big thing of, oh look, it's the first time we can have it on. First time we're playing a demo of it, and it's on the Xbox, or the first time we're playing it on the Xbox, or something along those lines. It was just just like a 5-minute, 6-minute thing of them playing. It's like the most recent Final Fantasy ones by the looks of it. So, if you like that sort of thing, I don't. I went right off Final Fantasy stuff of late. Then they brought out The Division to show up their first section of DLC, though there's going to be a lot more about the DLC in a later conference. We have The Division DLC, the Underground DLC, which is a randomly generated dungeon thing, really. The more apt name for it would have been The Division Metro, because it's all based around like the New York Metro system. But I guess Metro 2026 had issues with that and called it Underground. Then they moved on to Battlefield 1. It comes out on October 24th, but because Microsoft has the EA access, you can get it from October 13th. And that was basically it. They showed the exact same trailer from EA, which is kind of funny. It's quite surprising now, and there's one thing that actually came up with the Sony conference as well, is because Call of Duty was not at the Xbox conference, partly because the multiplayer is not going to get shown off until, because Activision has said they're not going to show off the multiplayer until Call of Duty XP in September, but with the game coming out in November. So it's so even if they did have any sort of deal, it's not going to be out now. But the one thing that I thought was very interesting was that Battlefield 1 during the Xbox conference had their little section saying, oh look, you can get it first on EA access without Call of Duty, and the Sony one had a section on Call of Duty but not Battlefield. So I think the blinds have now been drawn and the games have sort of switched consoles, because before Battlefield was very much on the Sony side and Call of Duty was very on the Call of Duty side. That's why you have like the esports sections done on the Xbox with the Xbox controllers and things. But now they've essentially switched sides. The Battlefield one is now basically on the Xbox console, and the Call of Duty is now on the PS4. It's quite interesting how that has turned out. As soon as EA Access came along, they switched sides. Xbox got EA Access, and the PS4 is very much outselling the Xbox, and so Call of Duty switched to go with the console that has more sales. so purely for monetary reasons, and Battlefield is just there because Xbox is the only one with EA access, so for company reasons. Then came a big section where they were talking about update to the Xbox Live, and they have the big updates to the Xbox Live where they were talking about big thing about crossplay again, but then they talked about Xbox Clubs, which to me is just like guilds and groups, because essentially it works by the way that they were talking about it, similarly to things like Steam groups. So it's not necessarily something that's brand spanking new to the industry, but it's essentially you can have like this very socially integrated grouping thing on Xbox Live now, much like I said, much like the Steam groups. Then came one which I didn't see the point of, but I wouldn't use it anyway. It's the Xbox looking for groups, which is people who are looking for people to fill spaces, or people to play with, or people to fill teams with, things like that. It's people who are basically looking for people to play co-op and multiplayer games. I don't. I play a lot of single player stuff, but I can sort of understand the need and the want for it, because there are people who need to have like fill spaces. Where you have like the Call of Duty people who have like, oh, we need to have a 5-man team, there's only 4 of us. Looking for groups for someone who's good at competitive, because there's these different rankings of, oh, we're here for the shits of it, we're here for the pro, we're here for this, we're here for that, and so there's all these different levels and all these different reasons that people can join. That interconnecting with the thing that came after it, which was Xbox Arena, which is basically the Xbox Live home for tournaments and esports, because much like the EA one, Xbox is very much going into the esports area of being able to set up tournaments, do tournaments, having people essentially do ranked matches and through, so they can move up into the leagues or get noticed by some of these professional teams. Essentially do that. This is essentially, it's Xbox Arena is Xbox's way of boosting essentially the amateur circuit, and one of the games I was talking about that is FIFA, surprisingly. I thought it was going to be something like Call of Duty or Battlefield or something, but I guess not. A fair few updates coming to Xbox Live. This is very much cementing that the Xbox Live is the place for multiplayer. It's very, very, very much the place for multiplayer and esports. Then they had a very long section about Minecraft, which was quite surprising. Not necessarily surprising, but it's Minecraft always gets a section. But on top of that, they also announced the friendly update, which is basically the cross-play update. You can play with other people and stuff like that, but it's also a big update for mobile, where mobiles can get texture packs, but they can also they can get add-ons. It's a very particular wording they're doing that, calling it add-ons, because essentially it's mods. But one thing they wanted to push, especially with this friendly update, was the cross-play with mobile. If you can play with Minecraft Realms, which is not new, if you've been playing the PC version, then you know about Minecraft Realms. Essentially, it's Minecraft-owned servers. You pay for the server space, and then you have a map, and then you can play on the map. But if you play with this update, if you play through the Minecraft Realms, then anyone can play, from tablet, from PC to Xbox. But with the wording that they were using, it can be assumed that this whole crossplay thing can be with other consoles as well, where if you buy the Minecraft Realms, then you can have people from PS4 or people from the Wii version. So it's very particular. It's like I'm saying, it's very particular wording, where it may happen or it may be something that's there, but it also may be not, and they're just having the very particular wording to go, oh, you can do crossplay with Windows devices. It's always going to be with Minecraft as a platform. Then they had this thing about custom controllers, where you can do these different color sets and custom sets for buttons and colors and special things. Essentially, you can make custom controllers, not the Elite controllers, but you can make custom normal regular controllers. And then came the Xbox ID at Xbox. I always go the wrong way around. It's the ID at Xbox, the independent game section, which to me, I always find absolutely fascinating. I'm always a lot more interested in the indie games that Xbox has, because I've played things like some of the games that they've shown off before, like Beyond Eyes and things like that, and I'm always much more interested in these indie games. It's always a lot more varied, and it's usually some of the games are a lot more out there. The first game they showed off was Inside, which is from the Limbo devs. It's a much more 3D rendered style Limbo game. It's still very muted colours, very monochrome sort of colour and styling. It's very much a Limbo game, and it looks fine, just like the Recore gameplay stuff. They have shown very little. Judgment is reserved is usually my phrasing on this sort of thing. Then they talked about other things like Ark Survival Evolved. They had this big VT reel of other games like Cuphead and some of the other well-known ones. It's like I said, I'm always very interested by these indie games because it's always a very varied bunch. And then they went on to We Happy Few. Oh god, I've known about We Happy Few for about a year. Through one of the PR lots that we do some stuff with, I ended up sending them a bunch of emails going, I want to play the alpha, 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 and I sent them loads of messages going, please let me play the alpha, but I never got a response, which is a really pain in the fucking ass, because I really wanted to play it, because it looks fucking great. It's very British, very 60s, very psychedelia. It's twisted as all fuck. It looks fucking amazing. I so want to play it. I wanted to play it a year ago, and I still want to play it now. But it comes out on the Xbox preview platform on July 26th. So essentially, you can play the essentially the early access version through Xbox on July 26th, which is. Oh, I just want to play it. It looks fucking amazing. Then CD Projekt Red came out, the Witcher devs came out and said, we're doing a standalone Gwent game. I haven't played Gwent or Witcher 3. Witcher 3 had a card game in it. Everyone got really obsessed over it, and everyone started playing that more than anything else. It seems they had a little demo of the actual card game itself, and it's actually very well made. It looks very interesting. It'd be quite funny if I end up playing Gwent, but not Witcher 3. That'd be a hell of a turn up. That'd be fun. Then came Tekken 7. Not really much point in me saying that much about Tekken 7 because I saw a whole bunch of gameplay and stuff and live play and stuff like that of Tekken 7 at MCN. The big world exclusive that MCN had last May was Tekken 7. So go and read our article. Gaming Part 1, the company games, with our MCM 2016 May 2016 coverage, and you can hear me talk about a third of a page of Tekken 7. Goes into much more detail that they had as well, so I'd say go read that, because they said very little. Although one little bit of information that they did say was Tekken Tag 2 is free for all Gold members. All people who have Xbox Live Gold can get Tekken 2 for free, which is, well, it's good, really. Nothing else, it's very good. And then they went into the section of the conference that I'm going to end up aptly calling the games that I really like section, because they showed Dead Rising 4. I'm not entirely sure if it's an exclusive or not. Capcom is very fluid about these sorts of things, which brings back Frank, Mr. West. Mr. Frank West from the first game has returned. Seemingly to the area of the first game as well. Hasn't gone anywhere. So yeah, and they're not taking this game too seriously. They went for a very silly sort of style opening of him selfies with the zombies and him going around in essentially power armor that looked like he was from Call of Duty, which was nice touch. But yeah, it's another Dead Rising game. They're always very fun. This one's not taking itself too seriously again, thank God. Very much like that one. Dead Rising 4 looks very, 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 very fun. And then Scalebound. Ooh, Platinum Games is Scalebound, the one that's going to divide audiences, because I looked at it and thought it was fucking sweet. Dragons, fucking sweet. The DMC style, fucking sweet. It's everyone. Loads of people hated the whole DMC style stuff, and I think loads of people still do. I thought it was great. I thought it was fucking fantastic. And so, yeah, fucking Scalebound to me looks fucking amazing, and I fucking love it. So, yeah, it's Scalebound to me looks fucking amazing, and I really, it's just, oh, it's the more that gameplay stuff went on, I was sort of like, oh, this is fucking great, oh yeah. It'd be a very strange tale to tell. It's like, what got you to get the Xbox? The game that everyone else didn't like. And then Sea of Thieves, which is a piratey game, piratey thing. Very much like Guns of Icarus, where it's you are as ship crew, going around on the high seas, doing stuff, shooting the shit out of people, or just nicking shit. It looks really, really fun, and I really, really want to play it, but I have no friends. It's going to be one of the sort of ones like Guns of Icarus where I got it. It looks great. I would love to play it if I had other people to play with. Probably sort of shows the whole looking for groups thing, I suppose, but I'd rather actually play with friends rather than people shouting orders at me. Then they had a CG trailer for State of Decay. Yeah, it seemed fun, but it was only a CG trailer. So, I would say err on the side of caution for even people who like the first game, because at this point we know bugger all, because all it was a CG trailer. Then came Halo Wars 2, sliding back on to games I really like. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the RTS, so having a Halo Wars RTS, the Halo Wars RTS is basically my way of into the Halo franchise, because I think the general franchise with Chief is really dumb. I think Chief as a character is really crap. Because from a writer's standpoint, he's a crap character. But the Halo Wars RTS is the bit of Halo that I'm more fascinated in. The grunt, the soldier, the people who go marching in knowing they're kind of fucked. It's the couple of thousand random people just with an all-machine gun fighting up this giant horde of aliens 3 times their size. It's the sort of thing of you either have to have balls of steel or be really fucking dumb to do that. So I'm always really fascinated about that aspect of the Halo franchise, the human aspect of the Halo franchise, the aspect of you're going to this knowing you're kind of screwed aspect of Halo. And then, remember when I announced the Xbox One Slim at the beginning of this conference? Well, now at the end of this conference, they're announcing the Xbox One Project Scorpio. It really is basically just an intermediary console generation. The one thing that we really wanted to push was everything that's on the Xbox One works with all of the other Xbox One. So you can buy something for the normal Xbox One, it will still work on the Xbox One S, and it will still work on the Xbox Scorpio, and all the games will still work on the Xbox Scorpio. Then I stuck my hand up and going, whoa. The line they literally came out with was, we like the internet, we like to connect with the generations. And then I just stuck my hand up and went, yeah, what about the generations from before? You know, those 2 console generations that was before you, the 360 and from the first Xbox? Do you remember those? Backwards compatibility, please? And I know, and they're going, oh yes, but we have some backwards compatibilities. No. Consoles. One of the design points for a console is full backwards compatibility. That was what every console had before the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Everything, even the fucking Wii, was backwards compatible with everything that came before it. So I looked towards it and go like, no, until you say we now have full backwards compatibility where you can put in a disc from the old games and it fucking works, I'm not fucking interested. Because you're going, we'd like to connect everything from the Xbox One to everything else. No generation gets left behind. Yeah, except the ones behind the one you're behinding. You fucking idiots. It's like, yeah, I'd much prefer to have the 360 compatibility, please. If you had full 360 backwards compatibility, then I would buy an Xbox One. Because that way I can just buy all the 360 games I really liked and all. But you don't, do you? Because you like selling the remastered editions, you fucking assholes. So I'll pass. Thanks. But that's the problem. That's also with the PS4 as well. So don't think I'm just picking fight. The PS4 can suck dick on that aspect as well. But with the Scorpio, is even more dumb because the only fucking reason they're doing this is for VR. That's it. That's the only reason why they're doing it is for VR, because VR has essentially forced the hand of the console developers to make a new, to boost the current crop of consoles to accommodate. At least with the Nintendo NX, they can just turn around and be like, shit, we need to be able to do VR. Just add 6 months. Just add 6 months to the development time, and then we'll add VR, because their console's not out yet. But the PS4 and the Xbox One are out, and they're not VR capable. Well, they are VR capable, but it's not going to be the same standard as the PC, because the PC ones are like fully modern machines of like 6 months ago. The current crop of consoles are from 2 years ago, so they're obviously not going to be as good. They still can, just not as good. And the VR people, for VR, it needs to be good. It needs to be very, very good, because otherwise the immersion gets shot in the face, flickering. If the resolution can't keep up, then they get blurring and tearing and makes people feel sick. You end up with the same problems that happen with all of the other previous generations of VR. So it ends up coming to a point where they have to boost the graphical power of the current group of consoles, and the only way they can do it is by having essentially what I'm calling an intermediary console generation, because it's just a console generation fit in between console generations just to boost power. It's the iPhoning of the console industry, which is fucking dumb. I understand why they did it, because they have to accommodate VR, but I really fucking hope this isn't something the console industry actually keeps doing, because there are essentially only a few points that a console has to have. One is plug and play, which is kind of a bit these days because of day one patches. Backwards compatibility, which hasn't been in for 2 fucking console generations, and a long life cycle. It has to last like 6 years. These fucking the current generation of consoles can barely last 2 without getting an update. So, yeah, it's the 3 things that make a console aren't, for the Scorpio, is not part of it. It's not plug and play because of the fucking day one patches and the way the industry is at the moment. It's not backwards compatible with previous generations of console, and this is an intermediary console generation with being only 2 years after the Xbox One. So, the Scorpio, a giant fucking dumb idea, but the only reason why they're doing it is to accommodate VR, and that's it. So, to sum up, I am still very skeptical of the Windows Unified Platform on the behalf of the consumers. The Xbox Scorpio is still a giant fucking dumb idea. God, I really hope that doesn't stick. There's 2 things that I don't like about the entire conference, and they're both 2 FUs by Microsoft to the consumer base. Everything else was great. Games were fun. There's a couple of games I really fucking want to play. Apart from those 2 FUs essentially to the consumer base, everything else was great. And I'm not entirely sure if that should taint it or not, because the games are really fun, and that's part of the point of the E3 stuff, is the games are absolutely fucking amazing. It's like with Scalebound and Sea of Thieves and Halo Wars 2, Dead Rising 4, Tekken 7. There's a whole bunch of them. It's just those 2 things out of an entire hour and a half, out of the entire conference. Those 2 things. The Windows Unified Platform, which they didn't call it the Windows Unified Platform, they're constantly going, oh, but it's crossplay. It's like, yeah, but the reason you're doing it is because of the WP. So, and then the whole Scorpio thing. If you're not interested by a 4K, if you're not interested by playing VR on the Xbox, you don't need to bother. You don't need to bother. But VR is great. VR is fun. I have played VR games and it's fucking amazing. It really is a sort of thing where I look towards those things as someone who has grown up with the previous console generations, with like 4 or 5 console generations now, and I look towards them and go like, this is the least console-like console. At least the current crop of consoles are the least console-like consoles ever. They're almost turning into a mutated version of a PC, which is not the point. You're supposed to be a console. That's what makes a console. Trying to think of an actual line, like the tagline that I usually do at the end of these things, has been quite hard. Because, like I said, the games are fucking sweet. The games are absolutely amazing. It's just those two things. I can't let those slide. So I think my tagline for this one is Microsoft, or the Xbox conference, aside from corporate issues, pretty fucking sweet.